Well, good evening and welcome to our Wednesday night update here at First Presbyterian Church. We are glad to have you with us this evening. Looks like, Dale, you were the first one to comment tonight, and on this beautiful winter's day, I trust everything's been going well for you. Len, it looked like you were second in here tonight. Saw you earlier, kind of got caught up with you a little bit, but glad to have you with us tonight as well. And then Meg, looks like you were the third one to pop in tonight and say hello. Hello to you, and I hope your week has been going smoothly for you. And Peggy, very good evening to you as well, and thank you for loaning me that CD, or DVD rather, of Belfast. I rewatched that movie last night and appreciated the alternative ending to that, so thanks for that. If others check in here over the next few minutes, I'll try and check the monitor over here to my right and acknowledge those folks too. A few announcements this evening. We do still have that soup and pizza fundraiser going for the food shelf. It goes through next Monday, the 28th. And again, you can order quarts of soup or take and bake pizzas. And by the way, I tried the chicken tikka masala pizza a couple of nights ago. Jenny and I had that, and it was superb. So if you like Indian food and you want some of it on kind of a pizza type format, highly recommend that. 25% of the orders from that will be going to the White Bear Lake area food shelf. And the details about the code to use and stuff are on the church website and in the church newsletter. This coming Sunday is the annual meeting for our congregation and the church foundation. That will be an in-person meeting, so that won't be on the YouTubes. It won't be out there on the interwebs for all to see the inner workings of our congregation. That is probably a good thing in some ways. We don't necessarily want all that information out there publicly. Also, immediately following this tonight, if you're interested, Kelly Johnson, who did a couple of our women's retreats, the Being Brave retreats, is doing a webinar on stress and the brain tonight at 6:30. There is information in the newsletter in terms of how to access that webinar. Also, starting in April, we are going to be starting to collect items again for the White Bear Lake area food shelf. If you remember, pre-COVID, we would have the kids go up and down the aisles of the church and invite you to pass items to the end, and we would fill the basket with that. We're going to be beginning that again on April 3rd, and this time around, we're going to be collecting boxed cereal to give to the food shelf. So if you're in worship on the 3rd, by all means, bring that, and it'll be nice to have that as part of our worship experience again with one another. Let's see, who else has joined us? Joe, you're back with us again this week. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. Good to see you again. Monica, very happy Wednesday to you, my friend, as well. So, and Joe, a very happy birthday to you for tomorrow as well. Indeed, coming up for you here. Glad to see that. In terms of prayer requests, we have a few prayer requests that are on the list here at the moment. Steve Knapp is going to soon be beginning a new treatment regimen that may help slow down the progression of the Alzheimer's that he's been dealing with. Both he and Barb are a little bit nervous about this new treatment. It's one of these treatments that's kind of in the final testing phases, if you like, at the moment. So it may or may not make a difference for him. We're hoping and praying that once he gets started on that, though, it will. And it will have the desired effect of attacking the plaques and increasing the blood flow to those parts of the brain that are struggling right now. Also, Jeff Lash is asking for prayers for his cousin Jessica, whose mother passed away unexpectedly this week. Prayers are for her and for the rest of Jeff's family during this hard time. Loss is never easy for us to deal with, and so yes, our prayers are very much with Jeff and Jessica and the family. Darlene Zabadil's brother-in-law, Marvin, he had heart surgery today, so we want to pray that surgery went well and that Marvin makes a full and a quick recovery here too. Also, Alice Williamson is asking for prayers for her stepdaughter, Gwen, for healing and relief from pain. And our continued prayers with Jim Smith as he is in the VA at Roseville now, a VA facility there in hospice care. And our prayers continue to be with Rita Garenbeck's son, David, and for his safety and his diplomatic partners who are in Ukraine right now, and obviously our continued prayers for peace in Ukraine. I haven't heard if there's any update yet in terms of David's location, the whereabouts of the diplomatic corps, etc. But if we hear anything from Rita, we will certainly pass that on to all of you for prayer. Our continued prayers with Bill Fairman in hospice care, Eric Esterly's mom for healing after her surgery, and the continued violence in Cameroon. A lot of things to be keeping in prayer at this time. Of course, we are on our journey now towards Easter, towards that celebration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It's an exciting time in the life of the church and the life of God's people. It's historically a time where the church prepared itself to welcome new members. In the early church, it was in many areas it was decided that new members would be welcomed once a year on Easter Sunday. And Lent was often used as a time of preparation for that new member catechism in the church. But we've been taking a look at the book of James. It's a book that the reformer Martin Luther referred to as the Epistle of Straw. He didn't like it because it contradicted, or he felt it at least challenged and somewhat contradicted his newfound love of the doctrine of grace, that we are saved by grace alone through faith in Jesus Christ. And as he looked at the book of James, he thought there was too much of an emphasis in there on works, on earning your salvation by works. In fact, Martin Luther went as far as to say that he would like to remove this little book from the Bible if he had his way. He didn't have his way, and the book of James is still an integral part of the New Testament text today. And it's this passage in James today that we're looking at from chapter 2, and it's beginning in verse 14, that really kind of got to Martin Luther. Because there it says, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if people claim to have faith, but have no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm, be well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead." But someone will say, "You have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by what I do. You believe there is one God? Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder." And then this section ends again. "As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead." I love this passage because it really is a huge challenge to us, isn't it? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. You can't just say to them, "Go in peace, keep warm, and be well fed." The expectation is that we will do something about it. When John the Baptist was preaching in the wilderness, he was asked, what should people do? And he said, look, if you have 2 shirts and your neighbor doesn't have one, you give him one of the 2 shirts that you have. It's not very complicated. If you see someone with needs and you have the resources to provide it, you act on it. You know, one of the missions that we support in our church is Rural Healthcare Initiative, and right now we have 3 members of our team from the United States over in Sierra Leone working on some of the details as to how we can better run our mobile outreach clinics, but they're also teaching how to use an ultrasound at the birth waiting home so we can get a better understanding of the level of pregnancy that people are at, when their due date is, are there any complications in there, is the baby turned the right way, that kind of stuff. There's also a photograph of one of the kids from Teconco on the wall here behind me. When I live the life I live here in the United States, sitting in a room right now with a studio light, a camera, a computer monitor, a high-end microphone, and have that picture behind me, I'm reminded of the responsibility that I have to use the resources that I've been blessed with to bless others. As I was reading this passage today, for some reason I decided I should go back to the old reformer, John Calvin. So I picked up my copy of the Institutes of the Christian Religion. And in Calvin's Institutes, he says this, under his title, "Who is Our Neighbor?" He says, "But I say, we ought to embrace the whole human race without exception in a single feeling of love. Here there is no distinction between barbarian and Greek, worthy and unworthy, friend and enemy, since all should be contemplated in God, not in themselves." And then he goes on, he says, "When we turn aside from such contemplation, it is no wonder we become entangled in many errors." Right? When we stop loving our neighbor like that, we become entangled in many errors. Therefore, if we rightly direct our love, we must first turn our eyes not to man, the sight of whom would more often engender hate than love. So Calvin's at least acknowledging the challenge of loving others. He says we more often engender hate than love, but we should turn to God, who bids us extend to all people the love we bear to him, that this may be an unchanging principle. Whatever the character of the person, we must yet love them because we love God. So Calvin was writing in the 1500s. I thought, well, what do the other people say? So I decided to go to St. Augustine next. And I found this in Augustine's writing on Christian doctrine. He says this, "Further, all people are to be loved equally. To whom our Lord says, 'Go and do likewise,' teaching us that he is our neighbor, whom it is our duty to help in his need, or whom it would be our duty to help if he were in need. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor." It is clear, says Augustine, that every person is to be considered our neighbor, because we are to work no ill to any person. Faith without works is dead. Some people will say, "Well, you have faith, I have deeds. Show me with your faith without deeds." Even the demons believe there is a God. But you see, as Christians, we will always work out our salvation through the actions we take, through the life we live. For they will know, says Jesus, that we are Christians by the love that we have for one another. And how can the love of God possibly be in us if we fail to do to others as we would have them do to us? If we were in need, we would hope somebody would help us out. So if we see somebody in need, then we must help them too. Folks, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. I will be back live online and in person on Sunday morning in the sanctuary. We will be back here again next Wednesday night to hop into the next little piece of James. And until then, God bless you and have a great rest of your week.